Our next part of the opening plenary session is indeed about coordinating and communicating amongst the groups, and you've heard from her before. You see her now. So another of our new candidates for council on the state. So Sandra Collins is the director of the National Library of Ireland. Sandra's been involved in the European activities of RDA for a long time and was the host of the third plenary meeting. So Sandra's going to animate a little bit more this session about coordination and communication, and she has one slide. If you could put it up for me, please.
Thanks, Hilary. Thanks, Hilary. So that was a really great session with some good questions. And I think a part of the answering the questions is communication and coordination. So I have the privilege here to talk about an initiative that we're going to do together. So it's a 600-person thought experiment here. So please get involved. So when we started in 2015 working on the future directions for RDA, there were three priorities that came up: engagement, communication and coordination. And so that was communications and coordination were two of those top three priorities and have remained so. We published the report in January of 2016, and where we stood then, we are now a year and a quarter forward. The growth rate has continued. We now have another nearly 2,000 members since then. So one of the key enablers for scaling up the organisation is communication, to hold it together in an appropriate way. So RDA is getting bigger, and it can be difficult to navigate and to orient yourself within an organisation that's growing and has such a diversity of working groups. I saw the drones working group. I'm really interested to hear more about that. It's a very, very wide range. So what we want to do here in P9 is to use this opportunity of having so many of the community together in one place to have a joint conversation about it. So to use this meeting as an opportunity to look for new or better ideas for cross-group coordination and communications. And I can tell you in advance that there's no wrong answer. So whatever you think is a good idea and is actionable to improve the communications and coordinations across the organisation, please let us know. Now, there is a caveat. So what you are not allowed to do is moan or complain. You have to come with a solution, and it has to be actionable. And if you volunteer the solution, you may be involved in making it happen as well. So maybe think about that before you start. Some of the big ideas that came out of the future directions were the ambassadors and the mapping of the whole working group and interest group landscape. But I think that the key now, what we're looking for in this initiative, is things that the community can contribute to that don't have a high overhead of centralisation, top-down, as it were, but things that we can all do to improve this really vibrant workforce, volunteer workforce here. So I'm going to stop talking in 1 second. The process is you have to think about it now. I'm going to ask for suggestions in about 60 seconds, so I hope you've been thinking really fast. So today is the brainstorming day. Tomorrow during the business meeting, we will have closed the idea gathering phase, or not closed it, taken a milestone in the middle of it, and we'll summarise the ideas and ask you to start voting on them. So for you to indicate what you think will work, what the priorities are. And in day 3, in the closing plenary session, the voting will be over, and what we'll do is report back to you what the results are and make some conclusions and commitments to next steps. Something we're particularly interested in, again, there's no wrong idea, so whatever you want to say, say it, but particularly interested in anything that would improve inclusivity and diversity within that communications and coordination framework. So I know there's a lot of really smart people in this room, 600, so I know there's a lot of good ideas out there. So can you just give them, can you put them in. You don't need to tailor it. You don't need to be really careful. We're going to bring them together, and then the Secretariat will do a lot of work to turn that into a plan. The deadline for solutions is 1 p.m. tomorrow. There's a Google doc to contribute them into. It's really, really low overhead to put it in. It's your idea and your name against it. Here's an example of ones. So what you can do as well is to highlight something that's already working well. So if I look at these 3 examples, a new interest group is set up, and they're going to spread their membership across the other groups and report back. That's pretty easy to do as long as you have the capacity. Common vocabulary, and to continue the tab representatives in every group. The actual comment, I think it was Rob's, was they work, so it doesn't have to be a long summary. So what we do now for a few minutes is, if we have the mic, to open it up and hear some ideas here and now. There's about 30 on the spreadsheet, I think, as of this morning.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You can't just find your voice. You can't find your voice for the commission. You have to find it for RDA as well. So
Yeah.
who put an idea that isn't one of those 3 and wants to say it out, just to start it off and warm you all up, break that ice?
I'm going to volunteer people if you don't volunteer.
Oh, is that how it works? Oh, there's a hand here. Sorry. Could you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, Jane Weingard. I'm co-chairing the drones working group. So my idea was that we have a mandatory evening social poster session. If you run a working group or an interest group, you have to have something there. And then gamify it. Have a leaderboard that shows who's made the most connections, or have some sort of game that gets you quarter drink tickets, or gamify it that forces us to connect. Because I think if you just know that other group is there that is relevant to you, you'll do the next step. But it's just that I don't even know they exist.
Okay, so it's tap into the competitive spirit that's in the room here. Yeah.
Can you stand up? There's one. No, there he is. There.
We could do a how our field has solved your problem in the past session.
Okay, I like it. And I guess in the plenary, that's where people report on the results and so on. This one is a little more in your face, I guess, but that's good too. Francoise, would you kill me if I volunteered you to say something about the ambassadors? Microphone here.
Microphone. Just
Thank you.
I think that the ambassador idea is in the future direction plan, and it's a great idea. And there are already successful examples which are documented. So I have begun to try to find names in collaboration, in particular with Amy, because she has also her role in the council subcommittee about engagement and communication. And I think that it's very important. We have seen that when it works, and it's when someone who is well known in the community, who takes care of disseminating information and gathering feedback and needs and gaps to the RDA. So I really think it's useful that we continue to gather names, because there are certainly not a single way to do that, because the communities we know are very diverse. So I think we have to understand what it means to be an ambassador in different communities, and then to try to see how the RDA can support the ambassadors with material, slides, and eventually also people who can come to give help on specific topics because no ambassador, you can be an ambassador and you are not obliged to know everything about the RDA, I promise. I don't know everything about the RDA, and I am an ambassador. So I encourage you to talk to Amy, and to me, and so we can put more names in the list, and then we would like to have people, to put people together one way or another to discuss how they do the job.
Yeah, okay, it's good.
For the opportunities.
Thanks, Francoise. Mark had a very simple one, I thought. Well, maybe hard to do, but simple to explain, which was to add more members to TAB. And it came back into my head after Augusto's presentation with the issue of scaling and capacity. So I suppose the ideas are from big to small, and from what's immediately tangible and what maybe takes a more concerted effort. Did you want to say anything about that, Mark?
I'm not sure that was my idea. I just wrote it down. But and it's an obvious one. You know, if you're having a scaling problem, add more. But I think actually maybe another way to think about it, and this has been something we've been talking about probably since Plenary 2, is this concept of thematic leads, or to use the IETF language, area directors. So people that have a view of what's going on within a particular theme. Again, it's a resource issue, and IETF, those area directors are paid. But it's something to think about, that, you know, maybe if TAB was larger, they could be more strategic in how they work.
Thanks, Mark. Yes. Ross next, please. Ross, gentleman in the second row.
I was looking at the word better connect and thinking about the quality of connection. Somebody challenged us yesterday by saying 50% of the membership of RDA is in Europe, and another third of the membership is in the US. If we're truly global and international organisation, part of the better connected will include better connected to the majority of the population of the world. And we've got good connections to some of the strongest research centres, but not some of the most important ones necessarily, because if you're going to do wheat interoperability, wheat's not just a Eurocentric, US-centric task. What are the things where we're looking for much better connection? So we, by design, are asking the question, how do we ensure that we don't just get across Atlantic? If you're only conversing across the Atlantic, you're not doing enough, arguably.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I know one of the things is the plenary event itself really makes an energy in the country where it is. I know that's one of the things to look at for bringing new nations, new regions in as well. Yeah. Okay, so this remains open. No idea too big, no idea too small. If you have a look, the link is there. It's also, I think we're tweeting it, and it's linked off the programme agenda. So just go in and have a look at the ideas that are there, and if you have another one, please put it in the spreadsheet. Very light process to enter it. I think if we had an idea from everybody in the room, we'd have enough to keep us busy for the next 2 years anyway. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sandra. Thanks, Sandra. So I don't know if they're tweeting it or not, because I'm trying to work out from the way people are, is Wi-Fi on or off at the moment.